I got to tell you, first, we all know that there is a need for infrastructure, whether it be broadband access, whether it be roads, whether it be things that we can do for our waterways, you name it. There are so many needs that need to be addressed. So this is going to be very positive. You know, one thing that's hugely important that really is infrastructure right there in Tyler, and that is the new medical school. That is being built, and there may be some financial assistance to help us build that medical school that was just announced that's going to be built there in Tyler. But we will also be making sure that there are no strings attached to this funding package. But bottom line is I think it's going to be a very, very positive situation for the folks in East Texas as well as across the entire state of Texas. So, you know, at this time of year when people gather together with their families over Thanksgiving, we have about 10,000 National Guard and Texas Department of Public Safety officers who are securing the border. And so I think it's my responsibility that I look forward to addressing to go down to the border and talk to those National Guard and Department of Public Safety members and thank them for what they're doing, thank them for taking time away from their families to make sure we are securing our border. And absolutely what they're doing is necessary because you all remember the caravans of the Haitians that were there in Del Rio, Texas not long ago. Well, there are additional caravans headed to Texas. And maybe you've shown your viewers the steel wall that we have built in certain areas along the border of these massive containers with razor wire on the other side to make sure that we will prevent these caravans from coming across the border. That said, there still has been a record amount of people who've come across the border illegally this year, more than 1 million in just this 1 year. So we're stepping up to do even more to secure our border to keep our state safe. You know, one of the ways in which it's unsafe is the deadly drug of fentanyl that has been seen in East Texas. We need to stop those drugs, stop the cartels, stop the human smuggling, and secure our border. Well, I mean, if you look at that poll, here's an easy way to look at polls, and that is the poll you just mentioned. I was rated more favorable than any other elected official in the state of Texas. So you got to take those polls with a grain of salt. My job isn't to worry about polls. My job is to address the needs of the people right there in Tyler and East Texas, and that's why we're working on education-based issues. That's why we're working to back our police and why we passed this law to stop any city from defunding the police, because I know that the people in the local communities, they want safe communities. It's also why we provided a record amount of funding for our public schools, because education for our kids is so incredibly important. Sure, well, to clarify, obviously that union really doesn't know how the budget process works in the state of Texas, but I want to make sure that your audience does know. We can reallocate funding from one agency to another, and that's exactly what was done here. The prison system and the law enforcement system, they will receive 100% of the budget that was allocated to them by the time that this budget cycle is over with. It's just using that money for this particular purpose at this particular time. At this particular time, I know for a fact that the people in East Texas, they want to have security with regard to our election integrity. In fact, it's your local Senator Brian Hughes who authored the election integrity bill to make sure that we stop cheating and illegal voting. As you may know, I'm the former Attorney General, and I prosecuted voter fraud across the state of Texas. Voter fraud is real and must be stopped, and what this legislation does is make sure that we stop cheating and illegal voting at the ballot box.